Hello, you lovely lot. It's Mega Gran here again with another episode from my vintage story. Now then, I've been looking into whether we can change our class, and apparently there is a command line that can be used by the admin on a server to give you a one-time opportunity to change your class from that which you chose at the beginning. So we're going to have a go and see if it works. I'm just waiting for Grimer to come on because he's an admin. Cross fingers.
Okay, so Gran, you wanna change your class?
Yeah.
Okay. See if this works. Let's see if this works.
Okay.
There you go. That work? See, it says or rejoin the world.
I'm still a commoner at the moment. So maybe I have to come out and go in again. So I'll just come out and see if I can come back in and make myself something
Hopefully
different.
it works.
Oh yes. Class. Hunter. Malefactor. Confirm class. It did work. So what did that mean for me? Well, I have more drops from foraging and from finding treasure. And I think that might include panning, I'm not sure about that. A minus 35% animal seeking range. I think that means they have a lower range when seeking me, so they can't find me as easily. I think that's what that means. And I can craft a sling. Wow, that's awesome. But I'm also frail. I have minus 2.5 health points. I have a lower range distance, so I can't throw things as far. And minus 15% melee damage, so I can't hit as hard. I think I'll have to use ranged weapons more often. So out I went with my new malefactor skills and frailties. But I can't say that I noticed anything different. Really? But that might be because I hadn't played the game long enough in both roles to be able to compare. So most of my time at this point was taken up with foraging, collecting dry grass, making tools, breaking them, finding animals, killing them, making food, trying to last as long as I could, and of course finding ruins and trying to find treasure. But there wasn't very much round where we were now and round spawn because quite a few of the others had been round foraging and looking for the cobblestone. Gathering a few sticks when you were out and about was always a must because they came in very handy for making tools and for making fire pits, for firing your clay, of course. And little morsels like this were very good to find as well. Some of them had meat and some of them didn't. So it was the luck of the draw, really. And on this occasion, I was lucky. It was only one, but it was more than I had a few minutes ago. And every little helps. Spotting ruins was quite good as well, because there might be some treasure in it. Hadn't seen this type of ruin before. Wasn't quite sure whether it was a ruin or not, but I was having it. So it took a little bit of time to collect it all. Another little morsel. Was this going to have some meat in it? No, that was no good. I wasn't very lucky on that occasion. But there was something more interesting, not very far away. So I pillared up and got my spear out and had a go. Now you'll know from my previous videos that rams have a tendency to run when they get injured enough. And this one was no exception. So after running after it for a little while, I had no hesitation in backing off when I saw a wolf and heard its loud howl right in my ear. I actually lost sight of it. But I wasn't about to hang about to find it. So off I went. And after finding another ram, it headed towards the waters, which I was quite chuffed about, really, because animals are better in the water. They're much, much slower. And I got that one. So that was quite good. I was quite chuffed about that. And you expected quite a good bit of meat off something this big. And my expectations were realised. 15 meat, 2 rawhide, a lump of fat, and some bones. Nice. But alas, I wasn't always that lucky. Things could change very quickly in this game, and I'd not so far had any luck in running away from a wolf. I wasn't sure whether I was going to be lucky this time either. But I ran as fast as my little malefactor legs could carry me. And I wasn't quite sure whether being hungry and running out of food at this point actually slowed me down. But there the wolf was, and he was gaining on me. But there was some water here, so there was a chance if I could get in that water to actually mitigate the danger. But I was too late. I was lucky I wasn't far from home, but I wasn't lucky that the wolf was still there, almost guarding my stuff, and letting everybody know about it. But as I had nothing at all to fight him with, it was a bit difficult to know what to do. I did go back home thinking I'd come back in the morning, but then found out that your stuff only lasts 10 minutes on the ground. Well, by then, it was dark, but I was determined to get my stuff, and I thought if I took a torch with me, maybe the wolf would back off. Now, this was very brave for me. I had no weapons, I had 1 torch, and it was pitch black. It really was. But using the minimap and my torch, I managed to find my way back to the little pond where I died. And I was just hoping that that wolf wasn't still there. This was it. This is where I died. And I couldn't see any of my stuff. It had gone. There was the wolf, and he was actually running away. Was he running away because of the torch, or because he had his eye on something else? I wandered around for a little bit, just to make sure I hadn't misremembered where I'd died. But then I heard a rift, and it was spawning drifters, and I needed to get back. So again, I was running as fast as my little legs could carry me to get out of the area where all the drifters were. And I still hadn't got the hang of my hunger bar. It was catching me out all the time. But at least I was heading home. But heading home with a torch in my hand, and as soon as I hit the water, it went out. So now I was in total darkness. But I did manage to find my way into my house and start to reorganise. So I had gathered some resources, and I could replace some of the things that were missing, like baskets and tools and things like that. And I was quite keen to get my malefactor special weapon crafted, my sling. And I would have to try and practice getting up on blocks if I was going to use my sling. I could have got up on blocks in front of that wolf, and I could have got it with my sling. Well, I thought so at the time. So besides the rope, I needed a pelt, a small pelt. And to get a small pelt, I had to use rawhide, combine it with some fat, and let it cure for 48 hours. But I'd just lost the only fat I had. And looking through all my containers, my reed baskets, and all the odds and ends that were in them, didn't make a piece of fat magically appear. I had all sorts of odds and ends in here. Not quite sure whether I'd need it all or not, so I just stored it. So in the end I had to concede that I just couldn't make a sling at this point. So I found somewhere safe to store my rope, and I turned my attention to increasing my carrying capacity. So using hunter's backpacks instead of baskets would actually give me 4 extra slots, so my inventory would be increased to 16 instead of 12. But alas, I needed pelts again, and to make pelts I needed fat, and I didn't have any fat. So until I could pluck up enough courage to go out hunting again, I turned my hand to chopping wood. My aim was to make charcoal. You needed a lot of wood to make charcoal, and you needed charcoal to smelt copper nuggets. And I'd been panning a lot lately, and I'd got enough copper nuggets to make my first pick. So I needed to make a charcoal pit. I only did a little one, I just went down 1 block, but I did a 3x3, and that would be more than enough charcoal to make my first pick. And I had more than enough wood to make the 9 stacks that I would need to fill that pit. It was getting dark, but the rift activity was calm. So I decided it was only over there. I'm sure I could make it there and back and fill that pit so it worked overnight. So off I went. I kept my ear out for rifts and I kept my eye out for drifters. And I did hear 1 or 2 groans, but I was quite confident they were coming from possible caves underneath the water. So I got there and I placed my wood in neat piles to fill the whole of the 3x3 pit. Then I needed some dirt to cover the pit and seal all the wood inside. And you had to be very careful not to pick any of the bits of wood up, because if it wasn't absolutely jam-packed, then it would just burn and not turn into charcoal. But it was getting really dark and my nerves got the better of me, so I came back in the morning to do the last bit. I still didn't know at this point that you could just light it with a torch, and I had a torch in my hand, well, in my inventory, on my hotbar. So out came the fire starter, and I started it with that. Now this bit could be tricky. You only had a limited amount of time once you've lit this fire to actually cover it with a piece of dirt. So you really needed to have that to hand and ready to put on top once you'd lit the fire. And that was it. All done. And according to the wiki, it takes 18 in-game hours to complete. I was thinking of having a fireplace to cook all my food, and I wanted a chimney, and there was a chimney pot. But you needed blue clay for that, but I had plenty. So I decided I'd make some blue clay bricks and fire them. I'd already done a few, I needed a few more though. So those went in the fire pit with the other things I was firing. I'd made various tool molds that needed firing, like I had an axe and a shovel, and a hammer, and a pick. The pick hadn't gone in yet. Should have done that first really when I thought about it, but I hadn't, so I had to wait for the others to finish. So that was my axe mould done. Nice. And that was my shovel mould done. Nice. So in next was going my pick, oops, and my hammer. Nice. So I got my pick in there, quickly followed by my hammer. And I was getting quite excited at the thought of actually being able to use a pick. Alas, I didn't have enough sticks. So it was out for a resource gather earlier than I'd anticipated. But never mind. Resource gathering is where it's at, in this game at least. And on the way back, I spotted a wolf heading towards my house. I thought this might be the ideal opportunity to have another go with a wolf in the water. So I headed towards it, not quite knowing how this was going to turn out. I needed to balance, being not too close, but close enough to hit it with my spear. Oh, that was too close. So I made a bit of distance between us. And instead of my spear, I actually got out my bow and arrow and had a go with that. And it didn't like that one bit. And that was it. It was dead, and I'd got it. And I were fair chuffed. Wow. And I'd got a piece of fat. So I would soon have my sling. I had noticed that the charcoal pit had stopped smoking, so I went over to investigate. That should mean that the charcoal was made. I had my fingers crossed, I must admit. Oh yes, there it was. A whole pit full of charcoal. Awesome. I was getting really excited now. My first pick was nearly there. And it didn't take me long to dig it all out. Ooh, that was a nice crunchy noise. I didn't waste any time making my little fire and getting my crucible. and putting my little nuggets in there. And then I put my charcoal in and I let it fire up. I'm not quite sure how high it had to get, but I kept my eye on that crucible. And I thought while I was waiting I might as well cook my bushmeat. So I made a little fire for that as well. Still not using a torch. And then I got notified a medium temporal storm was approaching. So it was time to huddle and do a little bit more panning while the storm passed. The storm had passed and my fire pit for my bushmeat was cold, so I relit that. But the fire under the crucible was still lit, so I grabbed my crucible to make my first copper tool. I couldn't actually believe I'd got to this stage. I was actually going to make my first copper tools, and my first copper tool was going to be a pickaxe. So I got my moulds out. I got pickaxe mould, put that down first, and then I got my hammer mould and put that down next to it. It was awesome. And then I tried to pour the copper, but it didn't pour. So I checked the instructions again, and this is what you were supposed to do. Pour it over a mould by clicking on your right mouse button. No, it just wasn't happening. Something was amiss. So I put my crucible down to have a look at it. And when I hovered over it, it said it contained solidified copper. So although the fire was burning, the crucible wasn't actually in the fire. So I went back down to start the process again. The fire was still smouldering, so I just put the charcoal back in, and then I put the crucible back in, and then waited. And then I thought I'd bring my moulds down here and do it all down here, instead of going up and down all the time, because it was going to take a little while for this to go up, and I wasn't quite sure what the temperature should be for it to be smelted again. So up I went, picked up my moulds and placed them near to where the crucible was. I wasn't quite sure how long this process was going to take. A reheating? Would it take as long as it did before? Or would it be quicker? I was really waiting for it to pop into that right hand side, but it seemed to be taking ages, and it did say contains malted copper. So I waited until it had got to 1300 degrees. And then I went over to my pick and I poured it. And it went in. And that was so satisfying. And then I poured out my hammer. Awesome. I needed to wait for them to cool now. So I took my crucible upstairs and I placed it next to my pots. So while those metals were cooling, I started the process of making my sling. So I started off with a piece of fat and a rawhide and the curing process. I just checked what I was supposed to be doing, and that seemed simple enough. Piece of rawhide in there, the fat above it, and an oiled hide. Nice. This was going to take 48 hours. So I placed that in one of the little reed baskets to do its job. Once the metals had cooled, I was able to pick them up. I'd got a pick head. Wow. And a hammerhead. So the pick head went into my crafting grid with a stick, and I got a pick. And did exactly the same thing with my hammerhead to get a hammer. Nice. I needed something to pick, and I had just the thing. So off I went down into my little storage room and started picking the limestone rock that had been there since I made my cellar. It was awesome. I wanted to pick. Would it be nice, though, if we were down in a cave, getting more copper? But that would come. That would definitely come. I made sure that I put the little stones down on the floor, so we wouldn't get any spawns of drifters in here. There we go. Oh, we'd have to get that one out as well. Now that I could pick it. Out it came. And that one as well. That needed to be picked out. Oh, it was awesome. Nice. Another thing I needed was beeswax. I had to take my honeycombs that I got from my hives and had to squeeze them over a bowl. The honey would go in the bowls. Should have gone in my inventory, but my inventory was full. So I carried on squeezing until the bowl was full. And I had 4 beeswax. I'd been doing some cooking, so I filled one of the crocks with some food out of a cooking pot. Then I picked that up and put that in my crafting grid. Then added the honey over the top of it, and I got a sealed crock. And I was at last starting to store up for the coming winter. It wasn't the best stuff, it wasn't all meat, but it was food, and it would last quite a while. So I was quite chuffed about that as well. It wasn't long after that when I wanted to help Or get some resin, and I knew of a couple of trees I'd marked on my map because I'd been told that resin was really special and I should remember where I'd seen it. So I made my way to the yellow dot on my map, took the resin off the tree and made a note of the coordinates. And I thought I might as well get some Cooper's Reeds while I was at it. I had no idea there was a wolf right there, and it took quite a chunk out of me as I tried to get away. I hadn't got my bow or my hot bar, I'd only got my spear, but I was going to have a go. And when I got in the right position and the right distance away, I could get him. But then I drifted towards him, and he got me. And I couldn't just couldn't get him when I was too far away. And that was it. I got too close. So I was at spawn yet again, heading towards my stuff. The wolf was still there. I managed to get my stuff, and thankfully, Or came to my rescue, because there were actually 2 wolves there. And I was reminded that I hadn't actually made my sling yet, when Or demonstrated just how good it was. I was quite impressed with that. That was pretty awesome. So it didn't take me long to get back home to find that that raw hide had cured into a pelt and I could actually make my sling. And I felt that my game had been raised and I was entering a different level of battle. It felt really good. The aim was good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I needed to practice. Didn't take me that long to find a wolf. I had to do a few throws to get my eye in. That was a hit. It went round the back of the tree and came round the other side. I still hadn't got my eye quite right as I kept missing. I tried to adjust myself. I think I was a bit too far away. So I went in a bit closer. And that was it. I hit him every time. I quite like my sling, I did. I think I achieved a lot in this episode. But that'll be it for this week. Next week, I go with Or to do some proper mining. So take care everybody, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.